Now, the thing that I've noticed is that buyers scroll for really fast when they're looking for a property. So if they can't picture themselves living there, they're just going to scroll past to the next listing straight away, and they're not even going to bother saving it. And if yours doesn't show them what it'll be like to actually live in your property, they're not really going to inquire about it. And for you, if people are showing that they're not interested in your property, the cost is going to be a lot more for you than just the marketing. It's all the time that you wasted. It's the interest that you're paying on the financing that you got out to do the deal, the holding costs, and the stress of the project. And when the marketing doesn't land, you don't just lose all the attention from the buyers, you lose all that time. And that's why in this video, I'm going to show you the real reason why off-plan projects stall long before price is even an issue. And I'm mainly just going to cover these three parts. I'm going to go over how buyers actually decide on the properties they want to buy, why floor plans and PDFs actually fail, and at the end, I'll show you the one visual that most developers skip, even though it does more selling than the whole brochure. Quick heads up, I'm still building my studio, so I'm not going to stand here and pretend that like I've done 500 projects. But I am obsessed with what actually sells a property. Because here's the truth, right? Buyers decide on the house that they want to buy first through the emotions. They don't really necessarily use logic to begin with. Now, logic might be involved in terms of the location and, good schools and all that. But the first thing that they think of is which properties look good, and then they shortlist those before anything else. So the main thing that you need to focus on at the beginning is making sure all your marketing shows the lifestyle that they will have when they're living in the property, because they're just skimming through a bunch of properties on all the platforms, right? So you've got to show them what it'll actually be like to live there, because they're going to fall in love with what they see first, and then they'll start to analyze if it logically makes sense with work, school, all that other stuff. But initially, you have to get shortlisted to the properties that they're saving on the platforms like Rightmove and Zoopla. Otherwise, if you're not showing them what it'll be like to live there, they're just going to feel unclear and then just scroll to the next listing. They're not going to waste their time, because if they don't save your property on that platform, they're not going to return. They're just going to keep looking and then find a different property that is actually showing them what it'll be like to live inside the property. You know what I mean? And the cold hard truth is, if they're not saving the property, they're not really going to inquire about potentially buying it. They're just going to go on to the next one. And you're just going to be like, oh, why is my marketing not working? When really you just use the wrong images to try selling the property to these buyers. Because let's be honest, the price doesn't really matter if their desire isn't there. So you've got to make it look amazing. The first thing you need to do is to get them to immediately look at your property listing and be like, you know what? I can see myself living there. Some of the cool mistakes I've seen from some off-plan marketing is that developers just give a whole bunch of information instead of actually just showing more images of what it'll be like to live there, or even videos, you know what I mean? So then the buyers can like fall in love with the place. And then once they're pot committed, they can then look at like all the other details and that, but that's always afterwards. And then another thing, like this bugs me. Okay. The other thing that bugs me is that developers, they'll just show like a render of like the outside of the property. And don't get me wrong, that's great. But like, when you're buying a property, you're not buying it for the outside. The outside is important, don't get me wrong, but you're buying it to see what it's like to live inside the property. You're not living outside of it. No, man. I see this so many times, it's actually annoying. But yeah, don't just show outside. Now, it is important to also show that, right? Don't get me wrong. But like, again, if you have a listing of like 10 photos, it should be maybe one photo of the outside. So like when you drive up to the house, what it'll look like. And then the other 9 should be of inside the house and maybe 2 of the garden. You know what I mean? Showing what it's actually like to live inside the property is more important than just showing the outside render of the building. Because you're only going to see that when you're parking up, and then you're going to go inside your house. So what, you're going to see that for like 30 seconds. It's not the main thing people are going to be paying for. But another thing, when you give in buyers like a list of information on the property, it's like, yeah, that's great, but they want to see like some imagination. They want to see Yes, it might not be built yet, but they want to see like what they could potentially do in that property, like how they would probably furnish it, all that type of stuff. They're not just gonna buy it because you said, oh, it's got, this square meter kitchen, or you know what I mean? They're not gonna, yeah, it's great to know that stuff, but they want to be able to visually see what they could put inside that space. Yes, I get it. The floor plans, they give specific information on room sizes, all that type of stuff. So could they imagine it from that point? Like, that's not quite good enough. People nowadays, right? We're more visual. So if you're not showing us what it would look like to be in the property and you're just showing us a plain floor plan with all the details on the measurements of the property, no one's really gonna be like, they're just be like, oh, okay, cool, next. And then another thing as well, like, don't wait until the end of the development for you to start marketing. Like, imagine how long your project is, right? Imagine how many people are looking at Rightmove or all the platforms. So you telling me you're gonna wait 9 months? Heck, some developments take years, but like, let's say 4 to 9 months of the project being built, or you're renovating a house. If you're flipping a house, maybe like 4 months. So you're going to wait 4 months before you start advertising the property. But just because you start advertising at the end doesn't mean you're going to get a buyer straight away. You might be waiting some time again to get enough interest for people to buy. And if you're getting like maybe one or two, how likely is it, do you think, that you're going to get the price that you list it for? Can start, especially depending on the climate at the time. They might lowball you, and if they're lowballing you, that's going to affect one, your profits, and two, you've been paying all the holding costs, all the interest over this time period. It just starts to become very expensive if you wait that long. But if you started advertising maybe like a week or 2 weeks into the project, imagine having all that time to get buyers. You'll have a long list of people that are interested in property. And the thing, yeah, and the thing with prices, when demand is high, you don't have to discount, because you can just be like, okay, you don't want it, fine. I've got 100 other people that want the same property. You think the price is going to go down? No, it's just going to go up. And then when you have multiple people bidding for a property, what does that mean for the numbers that you've calculated for the project? It means you're just going to simply make more money. And that's what you in this game for. I mean, hopefully. If you're not, then I don't know what you are doing. Like, again, like, it's not all about the money, but you want to protect yourself as much as possible. Okay. You shouldn't just keep leaving things up to fate and doing it the old way of like, oh, we'll only market once it's complete. Yeah. You got to try implementing these new ways to try to protect yourself and to just simply make more money and be less stressed during the whole process. Like, how stressed would you be knowing that you, I don't know, 4 weeks into a 9 month development and you've already got 5 people that are saying they want to buy it? You're in the process of doing all the financial checks on them to make sure they can afford the house. How stressed are you going to be? Really? Not very much. Those are most of the mistakes, to be honest. Yeah, because even doing it the old way, you'll be creating a brochure with loads of text on it. And it's like, no one's really going to read all of that. Like, they're not going to, that's, well, they will, but it's not the first thing they're going to look at. They're going to first think of looking at a house with good quality pictures of the place before they then decide, oh, I'm going to go for it. Then they'll start reading that. Otherwise, they're not. That's the same thing with floor plans. Plans make sense to us because we live constantly seeing them. But buyers, they don't. Like, think about how many times people are going to buy a house. They're not constantly looking at them. You know what I mean? So they're just looking at like, what looks the best to me? What can I picture myself living in? And that's it. So don't just send them loads of information and then floor plans after floor plans. Because if you're giving them a floor plan and someone's giving them images of what it looks like to live in the place, I guarantee they're going to go for that one. Eh, I'm pretty certain if it's the same house, same area, they're going to go for that one. Waiting till the end is the reason why it's the old way. It just causes so much unnecessary stress for you that it's not worth it. This is not what you signed up to be in property development for. It doesn't have to take this long. It only takes this long because people are stuck doing it the old way. And if you want to have new results, you have to be willing to try new things. Marketing late turns everything into being reactive. The question is, do you always constantly want to be reactive and barely able to like have peace of mind? Is that the reason why you got into property development? And then you've got some people that'll be like, oh no, I'm just going to do it the old way. I don't want to pay for the price of visuals. But let's be honest, because one delayed sale costs more than most visuals do. And that's not just talking about the money. I'm talking about the stress involved, the communication with contractors, and a whole bunch of other things. So you shouldn't be trying to put yourself in that position of doing it the old way and just wait until the end to start marketing it. But if you are someone that wants to do it the new way, the one visual shift that I promised earlier in this video is to make sure that your visualization show the actual room of what it'll be like to live in there. So add some furniture, add some context, add some things to show that the space has been lived in. Make the visuals have some context for the place that the property is actually located in. For example, like if you are in a high-rise apartment building, let's say, you show the skyline of the city in the window so they can see, oh, wait, that's what it will look like. You don't want to just be chasing like realism all the time. I get that. But you need to create the mood and the feeling that they'll feel when they're living there to really connect with the buyer. It's all about clarity. Buyers don't need 100 different angles. They just need the right ones. I'm going to show you some examples to show you exactly what I mean. So, okay, let's take a look. So what feeling do you get from looking at this, right? Versus looking at something like this? See the difference? The second one, it wasn't information, it wasn't specs, it wasn't like just floor plan, it wasn't none of that. It was just showing you exactly what it feels like to live there. That's it. When the image works, everything in your marketing and the project becomes more successful. If you're ever unsure whether your visuals will help your project, just click the link below and book a call, okay? I'd be happy to talk it through with you just to give you some clarity on whether it's the right thing for you to do. And if you still feel like, oh, you'll show them clarity once the project's finished and complete, just remember one thing, time is expensive. And having clarity on the number of people that are ready put offers forward to buy will give you a lot of leverage. So now you know if your project is not getting any interest from the marketing, it's probably not the price. It's just the clarity that you're showing your buyers. Anyways, take care.